Will AI make us smarter or dumber? In just over 2 years, ChatGPT's at almost 1 billion users. That's 5 times faster than the iPhone. And we're obsessed. People all over the world, students, adults, everyone, we're outsourcing so much thinking to these tools, to the point where some people literally can't get through high school or college without them at their side. As Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And every past technological revolution has been marked by we gain new powers, new abilities, but we also lose something essential to being human. I'm Lucas Miller, I'm a cognitive scientist, and this is my Genius Talk. The late Dan Kahneman, who was a UC Berkeley psychology professor and pioneered the field of cognitive biases, once said, "Thinking is to humans as swimming is to cats. They can do it, but they prefer not to." And AI is the greatest thinking shortcut ever created in the history of mankind. It's an intoxicating supplier of zero-effort answers, and with brains that evolved to hoard calories and outsource effort, it's no surprise we've seen such rapid adoption. So at this point in my field, while researchers and our broader society seem so focused on 2 questions, will AI take our jobs? Will it harm us? As a cognitive scientist, I believe an equally urgent and fundamental question is, will AI make us smarter or dumber? We don't have the answer to this yet, but we can look to history as our guide. As Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And every past technological revolution has been marked by we gain new powers, new abilities, but we also lose something essential to being human. The Industrial Revolution, we gained machines and engines and all these things that freed us from the blood, sweat, and tears of physical labor. But we lost our strength and endurance. We lost craftsmanship. We no longer needed to use our muscles, and they atrophy. The Information Revolution, from the 1950s to the 2000s, we got computers, we got the internet, we got instant access to information. We could look stuff up through Google and search engines, but we also lost abilities. Now when you're using GPS or Google Maps and you can just navigate to where you want to go, you don't have to remember where things are. You don't have to remember how to actually get to places. If you can just look things up on Google, you don't have to remember facts anymore that you were supposed to learn in school. The social media revolution in the 2010s, we got instant access to news, to updates from friends and family and the rest of the world. We got so connected digitally, and yet we all know, we've seen this movie, we lost our focus. It destroyed our attention spans. We felt more clued into what's going on in the moment, but we lost a sense of what's actually going on in the world. And if you look at in-person social skills, like the ability to make eye contact has suffered. We've lost in-person connection. The pattern is the same. We trade effort for ease. We gain convenience, but we lose essential skills. And now we're in the middle of the fastest tech takeoff in history, this magic that is AI, but what are we gonna lose? And the early signs are already here. We're seeing that AI is removing the effort from thinking. When you look at all the different activities that constitute thinking, from comprehension to analysis to synthesis, all these different things that are thinking, it's removing the effort. It doesn't take as much brain power, it doesn't take as much energy because this thing is doing a lot of the work. We're also seeing that people get bored more easily when they work on their own. So for example, if you have someone do a task, let's say write a post or come up with something for an article, if they do it with AI first, then you ask them to do it on their own, they're more bored. They lose intrinsic motivation to do it when they don't have access to this crutch. Harvard Medical School, and I want to quote it directly, word for word. Over-reliance on ChatGPT or similar AI platforms for answers and academic work and information can reduce an individual's ability to think critically and develop independent thought. Now, I've read a lot of papers, I've read a lot of research. That's academic speak for we need to be super concerned. We need to be really concerned. Now, we've seen this movie before. We've seen this with social media, with the internet, and my fear, my prediction, is that what scrolling did to our attention spans, AI will do to our ability to think if we let it. But this hasn't happened yet. We have to be aware of the risks from history and recognize that after, for example, the Industrial Revolution, when we got all these tools and we no longer needed to lose our muscles. We had to literally invent tools to compensate. We had to invent gyms and the whole concept of exercise and personal trainers and all these things. We didn't have that before the 1900s, but we needed to invent it so that we could actually use our muscles again, so we could put in effort to stay physically fit. We're gonna have to create the exact same thing for the mind. And if we don't, we're gonna lose our minds in the process. All right, I'm gonna give you a somewhat comical example here. Let's say you tell your friend, I'm gonna run 5 miles today. I'm gonna go to the track, and I'm gonna bring my Apple Watch so I can time it and track it and send it to you after. Then you go over to the track and you go, well, I'm feeling kind of lazy. I don't wanna do this. I'm actually just gonna call an Uber. And that Uber driver is gonna take me around the track. We're gonna do the 5 miles. And at the end, my Apple Watch will track it so I can still get credit. Send it off to my friend, and it looks like I did the 5 miles. Now that would save you time, it's faster, but what are you doing in that situation? You're tricking yourself into thinking that you're actually training your muscles. You're not getting fitter, you're just saving time, taking a shortcut. You have to be aware of the trades that you're making. When you use AI in this way, when you completely offload to it, when you let it become an Uber for your brain, yeah, you're gonna get there faster, but you're gonna lose your ability to think in the process. Just be mindful and know what you're doing. And my big push to you all today, my core idea, in light of all the risks from history, is to use AI to think better, not to avoid thinking. To think better, not to avoid thinking. What that looks like, whether you use it to think better or to avoid thinking, is whether you're in the driver's seat, whether you're actually driving your AI, or whether you're a passenger in the back seat, just letting it take you for a ride. If you do this right, if you offload right, using AI is like borrowing 30 points of IQ. It's amazing. I think everyone should use it. We should use it more, but we have to make sure that we're in the driver's seat. We're still engaged, we're still active, and we're driving. So what I'm seeing from our research at UC Berkeley, 3 common mistakes that you're probably making today that I want you to avoid. The first mistake is offloading too early. It is so tempting in the moment to go, well, I have to come up with an essay or create this outline or build out this narrative for a presentation. Let me just give it to AI, let it run with it. That's a huge mistake. We know that AI defaults to doing the work for you. So if you say, hey, can you give me help? It's gonna say, yeah, sure, do you want me to do that for you? Want me to spin up a V1? Want me to create the slides? And it's so tempting to say yes in that moment. But we know, and we've seen from early studies, if you offload too early, you completely offload without actually doing any work yourself, without thinking first, without writing first, without doing something to seed and create some detail around that idea, we see less neural engagement, worse memory, and worse performance when you completely offload to AI, when you essentially let it self-drive before you set the direction and decide where you want to go. We also know in various studies on writing, people are more creative when they take a little bit of time, just a couple minutes, to write first, to come up with a draft, to flesh out the idea, to do some thinking on their own, then edit with AI second. If you just throw the draft to AI, you're gonna get anchored to what it says. It's gonna limit your creativity. You're just gonna see this and go, well, this is probably good enough, and then edit it. And it's ultimately gonna make the output worse, and you're gonna feel less ownership over that process because you're not actually doing that much of the work. Now, a loop that I wanna take you through, a process that you can use repeatedly, because no one's actually taught us how to use AI. They're just saying, use it, learn it, use it as much as you can, but how do you actually use it? After months of research at UC Berkeley, we have come up with a method for using AI that maintains your cognitive skills and maintains your neural engagement. That method is called a TRV cycle. This is something you can use when you're trying to create something valuable with AI. It could be an article, it could be a script, it could be coming up with your final project, whatever it is. You're trying to get to a really amazing seasoned final output. A TRV cycle is a 3-step process that you can loop through as many times as you want to go faster and improve the quality. First step, actually think. This is step 1, most people skip it. Draft the idea, create an outline, write a V1 yourself, scope the task, get something out of your brain before you move on to step 2. That's where you refine. You bring AI into the process as your creative co-pilot. That's where you can test out your logic. Is this making sense? Add depth, add arguments. Use AI to take you from a version 1 to a better version 2. And then tweak the tone and style to make it better for the ultimate end user. The third step is to validate. Before sending off that piece of work, you have to check your sources, look for errors. Does the format work? Is it too long? Is it too formal? Make those final edits to make sure it's actually going to work, given your goal and where you're sending it, whether it's in an email or an essay and who you're actually going to give it to. And then you make the final edits. And if you have to, you just loop back to refine. TRV cycles. It's a repeatable process for getting through things faster and boosting the quality when you're working with AI. Now, the second mistake I want to go over is focusing on the answer instead of the question. So many people today give into that instant gratification. They go, wow, I have this magic thing in my pocket, on my computer. I can ask any question and get an immediate answer. And we're seeing that people are chasing fast, shallow answers. According to internal data from Anthropic, looking at over 600,000 internal conversations, about 50% of those prompts seek direct answers with minimal interaction. So it's just a give me the magic answer. There's no back and forth. There's no conversation. And this type of thinking can make AI a cognitive crutch. It's something that we rely on to give us that fast, instant answer, but it stifles our ability to actually think for ourselves, to do any learning, to do anything that's higher order thinking. We're just chasing fast answers. If you put garbage into these tools, you're gonna get garbage out. The outputs are only as good as your inputs, as your prompts. You have to actually spend time thinking about what you're telling it to do, what the question is, the context that you're giving it. Then you can let it and its magic and its abilities come up with a better answer. But if you're chasing fast, shallow answers, you're gonna get quick, really surface level answers. Couple solutions to really take a step back and use AI to ask better questions as opposed to just chasing quick answers. 2 methods to use instead. Use something like step back prompting. As opposed to just saying, hey, give me a quick answer here. You ask AI to take a step back with you, and you literally instruct it to zoom out first and think about how to solve this problem or question before trying to answer it. Can you explain in 2 sentences what step back prompting is?
Sure. Step back prompting is a technique where you ask the AI to break down a complex problem into smaller reasoning steps or sub-questions before actually solving it. This helps ensure a more thorough and structured approach to finding the final answer.
So, for example, let's say you're 20 years old and you're trying to figure out, should I start a YouTube channel? That would be a super easy question. Just whip out your phone, ask ChatGPT, ask that question. And it's going to come back with something like, yeah, sure, if you're passionate, go for it. Here are the pros, here are the cons. That's a fast answer, but that's not actually that useful. Starting a YouTube channel is a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, and it may not be worth it at all, given your priorities and what ROI you're gonna get on that. So instead, a step back prompt looks like, all right, I wanna figure out if I should start a YouTube channel. Before you answer, I want you to take a step back and think through the reasoning or some of the questions I should think through to decide if this makes sense for me right now. And then AI is gonna come back with, what's your actual goal? Do you want fame? Do you want money? Do you wanna bring community together? What kind of content do you enjoy making? Do you actually have the time and energy? And if you fail, are you okay with that? It helps you actually think through the problem so that you ultimately get to a better answer. It sparks dialogue in a conversation so that you're still doing some of the work and the ultimate output makes sense for you and what you're actually trying to achieve. Now, the second method is something known as Socratic questioning. This is something we've known about for thousands of years from Socrates. Instead of asking AI a question, what you do is you prompt AI to ask you questions, to interview you. And so you might say, all right, I'm graduating. I'm trying to figure out if I should take this job in New York or this job in San Francisco. I'm between these 2 options. You might ask something simple like, well, should I go into this field or this field? That's a missed opportunity. This is a critical decision that's gonna make a couple years dent in your life. It's gonna set you up for your career. A Socratic prompt in this situation would look like, all right, before answering, I want you to ask me 5 questions. I want you to interview me 1 question at a time to help get some of the info out of me to help me think through whether I should go here or here. And then it's actually going to interview. It's going to give you a question. You can respond in voice mode. Right? This matters to me more than this. Here's how I define winning in my 20s. Here's what I'm optimizing for. And then with all that context, now AI has a lot more to work with. You can say, all right, now based on my answers, based on what I've actually given to you, the real info, help me reflect on which path might be a better fit. Should I go this way or should I go this way? You're not outsourcing the decision, which so many people are doing right now. You're using AI to help you think better. It takes a little bit more time, but you're using it as a coach, not someone who's just telling you what to do and potentially directing you in the wrong direction, where you're gonna waste a bunch of time and energy and regret that decision you made. Now, the third mistake is auto-accept syndrome, as I call it. There's so much faith in these tools. They're fast, they're smart, they give back an answer that often sounds right, they're very confident, they're very helpful, but we know the more people trust in these tools, especially blindly trust these tools, the less they critically think. And that's a really big problem because even one of the OpenAI founders has described AI as Swiss cheese. It's good at almost everything, but it still has some holes in it. It screws up, it's bad at counting, it's bad at spelling, it sometimes hallucinates if it's prompted poorly, or it's not given the right information, or the training date's cut off, and it doesn't have access to current information from today. Hallucinations are also still a big issue. That's when AI literally makes up fake information and says it's true or says it's accurate. We see this in the legal world. People are still citing fake cases. AI is not an oracle. It's something that is there off to the side. It's very smart, but you have to direct it, you have to drive it, and it's not perfect. It's also being trained to people please. It's been trained on all this human data, which is super biased, which means all the different human biases, there's literally over 200 at this point, that's in the data. And that's how it's trained to interact with us. It's trained to be this helpful, confident assistant that just quickly tells you what you want to hear. When AI's response matches what you expect, you're more likely to prefer that response. That's really dangerous because in this world of social media, we're all aware of information vacuums where we think that the world is this way because this is all I'm seeing, it's all in my feed. AI is gonna pour fuel on this fire. If you wanna believe something or you want something to be true, AI is gonna make you continue to believe that. There's also something known as cognitive fluency bias, which is this tendency for us to believe that something, if it sounds good, then it is good. So many times I've seen people, they get a quick response and they look at it and go, that checks out, sounds good, pass it on. They don't check it, they don't own it. And it ends up actually being wrong or not good. It just sounded good. And because it was easy, they decide that it's good enough. Your data is also going to be used against you. Just like we saw with social media, with Google, all these companies are collecting every possible piece of information they can against you, about you, so that they can ultimately sell you ads, sell you products, manipulate you, throw stuff into your feed. It's the same exact thing we've seen before. You have to be careful and also know that ultimately any conversation you have may be used by someone who's gonna get you to wanna buy something, lead you in this direction. You have to stay in the driver's seat. Now again, I'm not saying don't use these tools. They're amazing, you have to use them, but be aware of the risks and make sure that you are the one in charge of the process as opposed to just sitting in the back seat. The solution to auto-accept syndrome, to this blind trust, is to do something called red teaming with AI. Now, red teaming is a concept from the military world, from military strategy. What red teaming looks like is, let's say we're in the strategy room and we're trying to figure out this battle strategy, this military strategy. We'll assign a red team. So that might be a person or a group of people over here. They're the red team. And their entire objective is to figure out, how's this gonna fail? How are we gonna screw up? What are we missing? What are the blind spots? They're literally assigned to poke holes in the strategy so that we don't fall prey to all these biases like confirmation bias, cognitive fluency bias. We don't get excited by a plan that's ultimately wrong or not gonna work in the real world. So you should use AI to counter your biases as opposed to the default, which is gonna be to amplify them. What this looks like is if you have an essay, you have a draft, you have some slides, you have something that you wanna get feedback on, Yeah, you could ask another person, but that means you gotta ask them for their time. There's a little bit of a risk there. You're gonna have to get critical feedback from a person, their emotions, or you can just use AI and ask it to be your red team. Say, all right, here's my view one, act as my red team and tell me all the things that I'm missing, overlooking, not considering, and you use it to poke a bunch of holes. Then from there you go, oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. I don't know about that. And use the collection of both intelligences. Your human intelligence with your vision, your leadership, your values, your taste, plus AI over here with just its sheer computational power and ability to think through things and find patterns that you may be missing, to merge them together in a partnership that makes sense, where you're still in the driver's seat and it's just adding extra fuel and extra horsepower to you. The difference between drivers and passengers. Drivers, they think first, they shape the question, they cross-check and verify, they're optimizing for quality, and they also constantly learn. Whereas passengers, they let AI do the work, they chase quick answers, they assume everything's accurate, they maximize speed, and they avoid effort at all costs. Ultimately, you're gonna need to choose your seat. And as James Clear in his famous book Atomic Habits once said, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. In just the same way, no AI interaction or prompt is gonna change who you are, change your mind. And in the moment, it's gonna feel so helpful, productive even, to just say, hey, do the work for me, come up with a version 1, good enough, pass it along. But every interaction, every prompt is actually a vote for the mind that you're creating. And if you remove all effort from the situation, it's gonna be like you going in an Uber around that track, technically getting to where you wanna go and losing your mind and your critical thinking abilities in the process. Don't be the person who throws on the GPS while they're on vacation and accidentally drives into a river. This has happened to dozens of people all over the world. Keep your mind about you. Stay in the driver's seat and check it. Say, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't seem correct. It's a helpful guide, but it's not 100% accurate all the time. Instead, you want to be this person. Steve Jobs, when the computer was invented, said, computers are like bicycles for the mind. Treat it that way and be at the front of the bicycle. You're steering, you're driving, and it's in the back giving you extra pedaling power. If you do it right, AI is like borrowing 30 points of IQ. Just don't let it become Uber for your brain. Don't lose your mind in the process.